Good afternoon. I'm Vander Wal, Territorial Vice President of the International Brotherhood of Magicians of Michigan, and I'm here on my last few days, kind of as a last project, but I'm here with the distinguished, the renowned. I like to call her here in Grand Rapids, Ring to 11 likes to call her our Queen of Hearts, and for surely a shining star of magic, and a little bit more of that in a few moments. We're here with past international president of the IBM, June Horowitz. Many magicians know that she is celebrating her centennial year of living, of magic and fun. And I thought it'd be great to have a little mini interview with her. She also has some magic paraphernalia she would like to show us. So she agreed to this interview, and a big thank you for that. Why don't you say, everyone, wish them a magical greeting. Go ahead and say hi.
Hi.
That's magnificent. June, I have a few questions, and feel free to answer these how you would like to. I asked many of our club members, and at a board meeting, members such as Magic Bob Zorman, Gil Scott, P.J. Weber, they addressed some of these questions. How old were you when you performed your first magic show?
I was 7. I did it in conjunction with my father.
Ooh, cool.
Where he had taught me magic.
Excellent. And his name was Abe Warsaw, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. What tricks do you recall that you began in those early days?
Inevitably, there was the egg bag. Another one I remember was the torn and restored paper.
Ooh.
And card tricks.
Card tricks, okay. Excellent. A few of those members want to know, were you an only child?
No, I had a brother and sister.
Okay. Were they involved in magic, or?
Well, he taught it to all of us, but I was the only one that stuck on it.
It stuck on it, so you caught the magic bug. Excellent. Magic Bob addressed this question because we know he does escapes, so he's very interested in that. But Harry Houdini passed away in 1926. You're the only club member that. What was the feeling around the magic community when you heard the news? I mean, how'd you feel? Or
well, it was definitely a loss, but Harry didn't achieve his great public success until years later, and his image has been growing ever since.
Yeah, true. You know, anytime I'm doing a magic show and I say, hey, name a famous magician, people say Harry Houdini, and yet they've never perhaps seen him perform, so he's brought a name.
In fact, after I got to be president, one newspaper reported that I had dated Harry Houdini. And this would be a little hard because I was just 10 when he died.
What do you recall magician Ganders, as us in Michigan call ourselves, and other magicians felt about the passing of Harry Houdini at that time?
I think they regretted it, but there was another magician that was much better known than he, Thurston.
Okay, Thurston.
Yeah, and I think there was more attention paid to that.
Okay, which addresses Mike McNee in our club. One time it was a show and tell, and he thought it was wonderful when you addressed this little story you told, and I'll just read it here. He remembers the time at the Grand Rapids Ring show and tell. She brought a Thurston coin as her item to show. I thought to myself, wow, she has all these years in the business and all she brought was a Thurston coin. Then she explained how Thurston himself gave her that coin when she was a very little girl. he was over to her father's house sitting in their parlor talking magic and probably sessioning with her father. I thought that was very cool. Any response?
Yes. I mean, I don't remember a lot about him except he was there, but I knew a great deal more about Thurston, who really was a friend of the family.
In your lifetime, what do you consider the most amazing advance that mankind has made in general, or perhaps in technology, in science? This comes from Sarah Ware of our club. Anything that you can recall, perhaps, that you...
In my life,
yeah.
well, such minor things as automobiles, telephones.
Yeah, we keep advancing in
Right.
every day. With, of course, back in the 60s, we have the tape recorders, the 8-track tapes. You had TV in the 50s, of course, even back in the late 40s, and now we have iPhones and smartphones and computers. So, from Jeff Stevens, one of our former members, who is in Florida right now, he emailed me and asked, how would, or his question is, how would you describe magic as it is nowadays to the magic when you first started?
Well, the emphasis was almost completely on stage magic, and in recent years it has turned to close-up, which enables a lot more people to enjoy it.
Right, being right up close, yes. And what would be the greatest magician that you ever got to meet? Maybe there's probably many. And you don't have to single a particular magician out, but name a few that you really are glad that you have met.
I'm always happy to meet any of
Right, yes.
I
yes.
imagine among the older people would be Thurston.
Okay, yeah.
And there's so many in the modern group, particularly people like Steinmeier.
Okay, yes,
who
yes.
are wonderful.
Yeah, and a very excellent creator of magic, yeah.
Right.
Your experience with the former IBM ring, which was 16, that's prior to ring 211, you just mentioned that you had a date of 1929 or so that you recall. I remember reading an article back in the 20s from Antonio Girard in Kalamazoo there. One time visiting that ring 333, he showed me an old Lincoln ring, and I was quite impressed. Did you have any experience, any time with that previous ring?
Oh yes. I have right here that I put aside an early program from that ring in which I was listed, even though women weren't allowed to remember.
Women at that time were not allowed.
I was listed as a musician.
And somewhere in our Ring 211 the directory, where it lists a little history, it mentioned that you were an honorary member of that club.
Yeah.
Excellent. Bringing it up to like near 1969, there was this development of Ring 211. At first we were named the John DeVries Magic Club, and there was an aim to get it to be an International Brotherhood of Magicians ring. What was the excitement back then? And of course Ring 211 got its charter in 1971. Do you recall what the feeling was back then, the excitement, any drive of the magicians?
It was a much smaller group. I think the excitement was internal, just among the members, and I think we've become one of the best rings in the country.
Yes, that's excellent. I know that as far as Ring 211, for 14 years we had an installation banquet and show. You participated in every one of those in one way or another, performing close-up, selling tickets, and many activities to that. And of course in the later years, which I say later, but it will be our 27th production of the Hocus Pocus Party, because we kind of we reclassified that installation banquet and show. We call it a Hocus Pocus Party now, and we will be doing our 27th, and that's coming up in November. And of course you've been inactive in every one of those. So another question, and a little bit of trivia here, and you can say a few things here, but the Panlin Hotel opened up in 1913, and the knife and fork room they had there, that's where Ring 16 met. I saw that in that Ring article. But they began in 1913. Former U.S. President Ford was born in 1913. So were you. He has a presidential museum. You have a museum right next to us here. We see many, and you have some items too from that. So I kind of say it's kind of a nice relation that, when Grand Rapids here, you have a former president. You've been the international president of the IBM, and not just that, you were our first lady president of our club, and of course now we have Michelle Parks, and she's going on her second term as president of Ring 211. So just kind of interesting trivia for people to know out there. These are some of the questions that I'm glad you were able to give us an answer and your thoughts.